Hey everybody, I hope everybody's having a good day today. If you see me start sweating profusely, don't worry, I'm okay. It's just next level humid here in the Philippines, and I'm sitting in my car on a hillside right outside of Pagadian City, and it's about to have a thunderstorm, so I can't have my windows down, so it's hot. Today I want to continue on with my understanding of how things have been, all prophecy has been fulfilled by the year 70 AD. And, you know, the entire time that Jesus was alive here with his ministry, he was dogging the religious system that was in place. He was bucking the system, and showing them that what they thought, they had a form of godliness, but it wasn't really. Just on the outside, it looked like, yeah, that looks like, it's godly, but it wasn't. And so I want to continue on with this. In Matthew 7, verses 13 through 14, Jesus said, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life. Only a few find it." I'm going to go on and read down a little bit farther. He says, "Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them." All right, whenever Jesus said those words, he said, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction." There was a side of the temple walls where there was two gates. There was actually a huge gate where all of the prominent people and all of the big religious leaders with their robes and their haughty attitudes would enter through this gate. And down below that gate there was a really small door, and that's where the commoners entered in. And it's actually the small door, the small gate, where Jesus carried his cross. So when Jesus was saying those words, he was directing it directly at the Pharisees and the scribes. So a lot of people don't understand that there was an actual gate there. There was actual pathway that Jesus was talking about, and what he was saying is that your religion is not going to get you there. It's the same way today. If you look at some of these mega churches, you've got your religious leaders walking in with their robes, purple and white, and then there's the extreme tithers behind them, those that get the special places to sit and all these things, because they're the big money, and they get to go in the big door. But, for all the common folk that want to sit in the stadium seating or whatever, they get the nosebleed sections, they go through the small door. They don't get to enter through the big door. They go through the narrow gate. So anyway, in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 1, it reads, "To God's elect, strangers in the world, scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia." It really means those who have been dispersed, the scattered tribes, And that word dispersion is diaspora, and it's Strong's number 1290, and it means scattered abroad of seed by the sower. It's really the 10 tribes of Israel. Remember, God had written the 10 tribes of Israel a certificate of divorce. And he left Judah and Benjamin. Even though they were guilty of the same sins that the 10 tribes of Israel were, God left Judah and Benjamin. He left Judah a servant, which was Benjamin. So his mission was to reconcile the bride back to him. And the bride was the 10 tribes of Israel that had been scattered. Remember, Jesus talked about the seeds, where they fall. So anyway, and they were scattered all over the known world, the Roman Empire. And you remember, God gathered together Israel and brought them back to his land, which was a spiritual land. It wasn't a physical land anymore, like a lot of people think happened in 1948 whenever the state of Israel was brought back. This was a spiritual thing, and I'll show you that. 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 through 8 reads, "As you come to him, the living stone, rejected by men, but chosen by God and precious to him, you also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house, a nation, which was New Jerusalem, to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. For in Scripture it says, 'See, I lay a stone in Zion, a chosen and precious cornerstone, and the one who trusts in him will never be put to shame.' Now to you who believe, this stone is precious, but to those who do not believe, the stone the builders rejected has become the capstone, and a stone that causes men to stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the message, which is also what they are destined for." Remember, it says they were building a spiritual house. Now, I want to talk to you about something here that whenever you first hear it, it may turn you off a little bit, okay? But if you'll look at the Mosaic laws, the 613 Mosaic laws that these people had become a slave to, the law was an accuser. The law was something that reminded you of your sin every single day. From the time you woke up in the morning until the time you went to bed, sin was in your face, and the scribes and the Pharisees were there to put it in your face all day long. So I want you to look at the law as an accuser, okay? Because that's what it was there for. It had a purpose. In Matthew chapter 25, verse 41, Jesus says, "Then he will say to those on his left, 'Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire, prepared for the devils and his angels.'" Now the word devil or Satan is diabolos, and it's Strong's 1228, and it means slanderous, the slanderer, accuser, false accuser, okay? In Luke chapter 16, verse 28, this is where he's talking about the rich man and Lazarus. And he says, the rich man is speaking, he says, "For I have 5 brothers, let him warn them, so they will not also come to this place of torment." Remember, his 5 brothers were the Torah, okay? And the place of torment was where they had been sent. Remember, it said the eternal fire was prepared for those, okay? Those believing the Torah would take them to the kingdom of heaven. And in that, I did this in an upload a while back. That word for torment there is bisanos. It's Strong's 931. It means to torture, torment, examination by torture. Remember that word, examination. Now this also, it is a black silicone stone used as a touchstone to test or examine the purity of precious metals. Remember, we're all in the refiner's fire, being purified, All the impure things are being burned away from you by this spiritual fire. In 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 3 through 10, reads, "First of all, you must understand that in the last days scoffers will come, scoffing and following their own evil desires. They will say, 'Where is this coming?' he promised. Ever since our fathers died, everything goes on as it has since the beginning of creation. But they deliberately forget that long ago by God's word the heavens existed and the earth was formed out of water and by water and by water. And by these waters also the world of that time was deluged and destroyed. By the same word, Rhema, the present heavens and earth are reserved for fire, being kept for the day of judgment and destruction of ungodly men." I say Rhema, it may have been logos, but it means the same thing, God's divine utterance. "But do not forget this one thing, dear friends. With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promises, as some understand slowness. He is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance." That means a change of attitude, a change of mind, to stop missing the mark. "But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar. The elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything in it will be laid bare." Remember in Malachi it talks about the day of the Lord, and you'll trample on the wicked, on their ashes and all that stuff. And it sounds, like something huge and horrible. But remember, the Pharisees, the leaders of the law, the accusers, the devil, because they were the accusers, they rejected the stone, Jesus. They rejected him. The word elements here, the Greek word for elements, is Stoicheion, and it's Strong's 4747. It's heavenly bodies. Remember, God often refers to his children as stars, okay? Or heavenly bodies. Some shine brighter than others, So anyway, it says, in God's eyes. But the word element here actually means a rudimentary principle, basic components of a philosophy. Remember, the law was their philosophy, their life, their heaven and their earth. The element of religious training, of ceremonial, carnal precepts common to all the worship of the Jews. This word comes from Stoichro, and it's Strong's 4748, and it means to walk in, walk by, walk in a line, in a strict accordance to a particular pace, walk in cadence, keep in step, to walk by rule. Remember, these devils, these accusers, these Pharisees were cracking the whip. Just like, if you'll think about it, just like when the Israelites were in Egypt and they were forced to make bricks without straw. Excessive bondage and burdens were put on them, and they were expected to continue to be able to do it, And that's the same way that was put on them here. The Pharisees were acting just like the Egyptians had treated their ancestors before. Okay? All of this happened whenever the Roman Empire destroyed the temple. Those who didn't believe went through a tribulation. They went through torture, by examination. Remember, Jesus told the people, he said, when you see these things starting to happen, wars and rumors of war and things like that, the earthquakes, and I'm going to do an upload on earthquakes later. An earthquake is not the type of earthquake that you think. It's not like the earthquakes with the ground shaking and all that stuff, okay? I'm going to do an upload on that one day. But Jesus said, when you see these things happening, he said, first of all, look up. And that word in the Greek, I'll do that one day too, but it doesn't mean like look up to see if I'm coming. It means hold your head up high, because you know all the things I said to you were true and they're coming true now. And you can hold your head up and say, you know what? I believed. It's because God allowed me to believe. And now I can hold my head up high, because all you guys were dogging me. All you Pharisees and scribes were dogging me and telling me I was wrong and I was of the devil. And everything Jesus said was true, and it's coming true. All those people had hightailed it. They were gone. They had went to safety. They were kept from that hour. Revelations 3:10, I believe. They were kept from that hour. The rest of those that didn't believe, they went through a great tribulation. Remember, in this instance, the accuser was the Torah. And a lot of people, or Satan, the devil. A lot of people say, well, what about in the beginning, Genesis? Whenever Satan, the wisest beast of the field, came to Eve and Adam and tempted them. I'm going to do an upload on that soon. And in the Old Testament, as well as in the New Testament, you got to look at things with duality, sometimes even deeper than that. It goes much deeper, but in that particular instance, there is a spiritual understanding to Satan, the wisest beast of the field, and there's also a literal understanding of that too, because there was two bloodlines back in those days. There was the bloodline of the beast of the fields, which was people with two legs walking, and I'm going to get into that in detail. And then there was the bloodline of Adam. And the bloodline of the beast of the fields, the reason they were called a beast of the field is because in their blood there was something that they had in common with a beast or a monkey. And then those of Adam did not. And a lot of people are going to get upset about that, because a lot of people think they have an understanding of what the RH positives and the RH negatives are, and they're way off base. At least my understanding that I see it. And I'm going to do an upload on that soon, Lord willing, and we're going to get into some deeper things. But before I do those, I want to do an upload on the earthquakes, and I want to do one more on showing that what was going on from the time Jesus started his ministry until 70 AD, whenever the temple was destroyed, this was a transitional period. They were transitioning from the law into grace, and the kingdom, the new heaven and the new earth, being brought down to us now. And that was when they were dragging the net. The first fruits were dragging the nets, picking up the 153 large fish, bringing in that age. And our ancestors, our forefathers, they went through a lot to bring us to where we are now, to where the kingdom of heaven is here now. And it cannot be reached by religion. It can only be reached by seeking God, seeking a personal relationship with him. And that can be done through meditation. And yes, the apostles did meditate. I'm not saying they did it like the yogas and all that other things, but there's meditation. It's just being quiet, sitting still, and listening for God. And you can put on quiet music however you want to do it. And you can also pray and speak to God. And whenever you have a spiritual encounter with God, whenever he flips your switch, everything changes. But what you have to understand is, what are you being saved from? That's what a lot of people, whenever I talk to them about hell and what hell is, they're like, well, what was in John 3:16? What were the people being saved from? Weren't they being saved from hell? No, they were not. They were being saved from the law, from the religious system that they were unfairly being burdened by. Today, each and every one of you are free. You are free. And if you want a relationship with the creator of the world, all you have to do is seek. Knock on the door and he'll answer it. Seek him every day. And He will guide you in ways that you can never imagine. And He will take you to places and accomplish things and fight the wars ahead of you in ways that is unreal. Take it from me. I know it personally. He's doing it for me now. He does it every day, and He's taken me. My life today is nothing what it was 5.5 years ago. It's the most amazing adventure that I've had in my life. Kingdom of heaven is within. It's within each and every one of you. And what you have to do is remove that fear that has been pounded into each and every one of you since birth by these Pharisees, these devils that we have today, running around with Bibles saying that you're going to burn in hell for all eternity if you don't do the way they say. Their doctrine says you've got to do it because it's a lie. Okay? Those people were not being saved from Dante's Inferno, which is what the religious system has been inspired by, on their ideology of what hell is, their carnal understanding of it. You're free today. Each and every one of you are free today. Seek God in spirit. And whenever you do encounter God, everything changes. It said you'll know them by their fruit. You'll find a strength that you've never known that you had. You'll find the love inside you that you never knew that you had, but it's been there all along. It's just been clouded because of all these devils. Anyway, I love you guys. God bless you all.